makers, so what you just saw there was the final version of a customer request. Now what you saw is, well, that. However, this wasn't like this. This is what I printed. Customer gave me this, and this is basically just a tray and a piece of cardboard. And the customer has a muffin company, so she uses this to carry muffins from one place to another. She puts the muffins in this cardboard tray, but it's obviously not very sturdy. So she asked me if there is any way I could change this and, well, do something 3D printed with it. Now I'm not going to show you how I did all this. I think it would be a bit boring to everyone, unless I'm mistaken. But I kind of wanted to give you a feel of how the process is of me going from this, well, to having these. So for me, the idea was first to print something pretty much exactly like this, which is relatively simple. But rather than square, I kind of want to do it because this has a bit of a curved edge. So I printed me, well, this, and was a relatively easy design, just a square and change the edges here to an arc and do some feet with holes. This wasn't very strong. In fact, it flexes quite a lot, and the reason is because I only did a spine here. So I iterated that design a little bit and came up with this, and this is much stronger. Still the same design, still the same box with the curved edges. The problem is that when you put this in here, so apart from it being slightly too big, it also moves, well, it actually moves quite freely, and if she's driving, the owner, well, if muffins are in there, well, it's not going to be a nice ending. So I kind of started thinking a bit outside the box, and the first thing I wanted to do is, well, rather than having one tray in the middle, why not just have two trays sitting side by side and, well, just locking themselves together without any movement. So I kind of took a rough design of the edges and the curves, measuring just slightly off center and everything, so it wasn't a very precise design. But the idea for me when it comes to something like this is always print something very quick to put in place and see where I need to adjust, and this is where these come in. This pretty much represents the whole, well, the whole space where the trays needs to fit. And the idea here is to have these two sit next to each other, and I want to see how they fit. Now in this case, while it kind of fit okay, as you can see, the corners are slightly off. They're a bit, well, too tight of a corner. It needs to have a bit of a bigger radius. And this is where this piece comes in. See, this just takes a few minutes to print, and you can iterate and you can readjust. So after doing that, I readjusted the corners and I came up with the second design, and these fit, well, as a circumference or as a perimeter, they actually fit perfectly. The corners were much better, and I managed to do it very easily thanks to parametric design. I might do a video on that. I'm only starting to learn parametric design on Fusion 360. The idea of parametric design is that when you have a full design like this, if I change one corner here, well, then all four corners will adjust relatively. If I move the length or the width of the design, everything moves in place rather than one piece, well, one corner is sitting as it was designed and not moving and being static. Parametric sort of ties everything together, so any adjustments you make kind of resonate throughout the whole design. So once I had that in place, it was time to kind of print a prototype version. So I printed the first corner. This was printed in Spennerhand's green PLA. Now this fit perfectly, absolutely perfectly. The only problem that there was is I did these kind of legs here, but they were a bit too big. They were hitting the edge because it's a bit concave here. So I kind of snapped them a little bit just to see an idea of space, basically, and it fit perfectly. So I knew that I had to iterate the design for the other half, well, to represent that piece that I took off. In comes the second design. As you can see, I did the adjustments here, and those fit perfectly, and this doesn't move. I can shake it, I can move it around here, and it stays in place. Now this was just a draft print. I used one top layer, one bottom layer, 5% infill, one perimeter, so it's just a matter of me testing out. And once I found out that that fit perfectly, I did a few adjustments. I did these 2 slots in here so the person can just pick the tray up. So then I went into the final design, and this is where these came in. And it turned out absolutely perfect. Now that's just a bit of an idea of how I go about to design something. Now this took me about 3 or 4 days worth of work to do this. It's time consuming mainly because I'm still learning Fusion 360, but I'm enjoying it, and projects like these, well, they just expand my knowledge of Fusion 360. Now in the meantime, that's not all I've been doing. Now remember a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that I am testing the Hictop Duale 3, which is like a CR10 with a NIDEC system. Well, I've been printing quite a lot with it. Now I've shown you some failures, but I've had many successes after that. The first one being this thing right here. This is beautiful, this is clean, and absolutely awesome. This is Arya the Dragon by Luby 3D, and the transitions of the colors are just spot on. I really love how the prints come out on this printer. It is so awesome. But then again, it's an IDEX system, so I wouldn't expect anything less. Next is the Hairy Lion. You remember the Hairy Lion, but this is the dual color Hairy Lion, and well, this also turned out awesome. Once again, color transitions, perfect. Print quality, really good. I could possibly do with some dialing in a bit more the filament, but it turned out great. This was printed in Filamentum Natural PLA, and I think this is Pearl Night Blue. Finally, during the Mail Day Wednesday, I showed you a print by Dig Chaos, a buddy of mine and also a patron of mine. And it was this, and I don't think anyone understood how big this is. It turned out insanely great. It prints like in dual color like this, and then you just print this separately, you shove it in there, and it turned out glorious. Once again, color separations perfectly. The Duale 3 is definitely lacking the purge buckets, which I'm going to design myself. But everything else, oh, it can definitely handle itself. Now, on the last vlog, I also mentioned that I am testing the Anycubic Chiron, and the Chiron is, well, it's a monster of a printer. It is 400 by 400 by 450 in height. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And for the past 9 days, it's been printing something. Now I've been kind of updating everyone on Twitter every day with photos. I haven't seen the print since yesterday morning. I'm thinking it's ready now. If not, there's only a little bit left. Last time I saw it, after about 165 hours, there was a bit of under extrusion in part of it. I'm thinking that possibly the filament spool snagged because it was a 4.5 kilo filament roll on a makeshift spool holder. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go downstairs and we're going to check it out together, and well, we'll see how it goes. Oh, it's almost ready. It's almost ready. It's at 94%. As you can see, it says 96 hours and 20 minutes. That's because it went over the 100-hour mark. So that's actually 196 hours and 20 minutes. And that, ladies and gents, is 196 hours of printing, and it's almost done. The only failure I've had was right here. And as you can see, there was a bit of under extrusions for a couple of layers. I'm thinking that's possibly due to a snag because the spool, well, it's a 4.5 kilo spool. Possibly could have been a snag, but I can't be sure. I wasn't here, but man, that is looking absolutely awesome. Now, while those few layers might constitute a problem, I do have an idea of how to fix it. Once it's done and I get it off the build plate, I'll probably put some filler there. First, I'll put some glue just to make sure that any layers will bond well together. I'll throw in some super glue in the crevices, and then I'll be sanding down this model. I'll be using filler, I'll be resanding, priming, sanding again, and then I'll grab all my airbrush gear and have this thing just look awesome. As for the print quality itself, It's quite excellent actually. That's 150 micron layer height. Now I could have done this print much quicker. I could have used 200 micron layers. I could have used less infill. I could have done less perimeters, less top and bottom layers. But the whole concept of this was to actually test, well, prolonged printing times. It is a huge machine after all, so it has to be capable of printing for long periods of time. And while there was a bit of an issue there, unfortunately I cannot tell if it was because of the printer or because of the spool. I honestly cannot tell because I wasn't here when it happened, but yeah, it can definitely handle itself. And that is it for today. Yes, I'm gonna leave you hanging. So you'll be back to see how well, if this finishes, how it finishes. We'll do a bit more close-ups and then we'll start, well, putting it together, painting it and sanding it and painting it again and sanding it again and painting it again. So yeah, make sure you stick around for the next one. In the meantime, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, happy making, guys.